Hello, and welcome to My Tiny Bottles, the project where I'm exploring my grandmother's legacy of miniature liquor bottles, one tiny bottle at a time. I'm your host, Tammy Coxon. I honestly don't even know where to begin telling the story of Bottle 29, DeKuyper Bluesberry Schnapps. The short version is that DeKuyper followed up its 1984 smash hit Peachtree Schnapps by releasing a bunch more schnapps flavors in the following years, including Bluesberry in 1988. It used the slogan, "De Birth of de Blues," which I wish I could say was a tie-in to the Blues Brothers movie, but that came out in 1980, so probably not. I could tell you the really long story of DeKuyper, a company founded in 1769 in the city of Schiedam in the Netherlands. There, they joined the already thriving Dutch Genever industry, making the full-bodied multi-precursor to our modern style of dried gin. But if I tried to tell you that story, it would take way too long. And besides, Difford's guide has already done it much better than I could. Look for a link in the episode description. So instead, I'm going to tell you a bit about national distillers. One of the most interesting things I've discovered through My Tiny Bottles is how few corporations are behind the hundreds of brands that line liquor store shelves. The names now are different than they were before, but in the world of spirits, there really are shadowy figures lurking in the background. Researching their stories is at once fascinating and also tedious, because I did not expect this project to see me spending quite so much time trying to untangle mergers and acquisitions and renamings, such as National Distillers, which began in 1887 as the Distiller and Cattle Feeders Trust, aka the Whiskey Trust, and got broken apart by antitrust lawsuits in 1895. They re-emerged as Distillers Securities in the early 1900s, and changed their name to U.S. Food Products in 1919 after Prohibition went into effect. They finally became National Distillers in 1924, specializing in medicinal whiskey. Anticipating the end of Prohibition, they bought up all the pre-Prohibition whiskey and distilleries they could afford. By the time of repeal in 1933, they owned 200 brand names and 3 of the 7 legal distilleries in the country. This put them into the ranks of the Big Four, those shadowy figures lurking in the background of the liquor trade. In the 1930s, these included Seagram's and Hiram Walker, 2 Canadian companies who'd made bank during U.S. Prohibition. The last was Schenley Industries, who, like National Distillers, had played a patient waiting game in the U.S. National Distillers was the smallest of the Big Four in sales, but the largest in profits, earning $7 million in 1937. And what do you do if you're a liquor company with lots of money? You invest in other liquor companies, of course, like DeKuyper, who entered into a partnership with National Distillers to run their American interests starting in 1936. They built a distillery in New Jersey and got to work. Now, no one in America was particularly interested in Genever anymore, but DeKuyper had launched a line of liqueurs in the 1920s, and those showed a lot more promise. And less than 50 years later, that promise had come to full flower, with 1984's Peachtree Schnapps becoming the 9th best-selling spirit in America pretty much overnight. More flavors would follow, like this Bluesberry Schnapps from 1988, by which time the DeKuyper brand had passed from National Distillers to Jim Beam. My bottle probably comes from the late 80s or 90s. DeKuyper still sells a blueberry schnapps today, but they no longer call it Bluesberry, and their label changed to a more modern design, I think by around 2000. As for DeKuyper, they still pretty much dominate the brightly colored fruit liqueur industry, giving everyone else the blues. Have a favorite layered shot recipe that takes advantage of their rainbow of fruit flavors? Share it in the comments below, and be sure to like or subscribe while you're there. Check out mytinybottles.com for more, or follow @mytinybottles on Facebook or Instagram. Cheers!